Coming up, I'll be talking with David Glass, Executive Director of the American Indian Economic Development Fund, about culturally centered development, next on the St. Paul Forum. Welcome to the St. Paul Forum. I'm Lisa Tabor, guest host with John Forty, while Mike Wassenaar is on sabbatical. We're here today talking with David Glass, Executive Director of the American Indian Economic Development Fund and owner of Black Bear Crossings on the Lake, correct?
Correct.
We'll be talking about ethnic development, economic development that is culturally centered, and specifically about economic development in the American Indian community in the Twin Cities. Thank you, David, for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
We're glad to have you. And so I'll start my first question out with, what is ethnic, culturally centered development?
Well, for the Native community, it's understanding the different needs that we have as a community, both as a culture and geographically, and ours are somewhat. We share some traits with the different ethnic communities, although because of our historic relationship with the federal government, we have some differences, and so ethnic related economic development has some different challenges for us than other communities.
And what might some of those challenges be?
Well, one would be access to capital. We've been historically, our communities have been oppressed, and as the community development financial institutions were growing and getting some strength, along with the Community Reinvestment Act, gaining some real positive awareness in ethnic communities. The Treasury did a study in 1992 and determined that all ethnic communities were reaching a better level of accessing capital, except for Native communities.
Interesting. So. And were there any reasons?
Well, probably one of the biggest reasons is the way our community interacts with sort of government entities, institutional entities. There's still a huge distrust level, and so we tend not to have those kinds of relationships. Banking, is pretty much non-existent on reservation land and or near reservation lands, and so Native CDFIs emerged in the early 2000s.
And what's a CDFI?
Community Development Financial Institutions. Those are Treasury certified programs. The American Indian Economic Development Fund is a Native CDFI. Okay. So we provide services, microlending, technical assistance, and we teach a business development program, and we bring it to our community in a culturally relevant way. Okay.
And where does that money come from then?
Well, AIEDF actually was a the result of some McKnight Foundation dollars in 1992. Since then, we've received other funding from the Bush Foundation, St. Paul Foundation, the Otto Bremer Foundation. When we became a certified CDFI, we received dollars from U.S. Treasury, and so a mix of government and private foundation dollars.
Interesting. And so it's not a bank in the way that we think about banks being places for deposits?
Exactly, where CDFIs are non-depository lending, or I should say financial organizations, and so they will, do one of three things or all of three things, from lending, education, and technical assistance.
Okay, and the technical assistance part, you also provide that. What kind of programs?
Well, we work with our clients depending upon what their needs are. We're focusing we have a big focus right now on helping our clients understand the bookkeeping, record keeping part of it. SBA says 85% of small businesses fail in the first year, 65-70% of that what's left fail in the second year. Much of that is due to folks in small businesses not keeping an accurate set of books, records, having a stable financial base.
Okay. And so how would you, or do you, connect your clients to the system, the mainstream system, the banking system?
Well, we have some pretty good solid relationships throughout. We actually operate in a 5-state region. Here in Minnesota, we have good relations with a number of different community banks, and depending upon the different parts of the Minnesota region, we have good relationships with the different banks. We have worked closely with the Federal Reserve Bank. So, as a CDFI, there's a sense of credibility, being certified by the Treasury. So, when we go in with one of our clients who's written a business plan and advocate on their behalf, and we're willing to put some dollars into gap financing, it's received fairly well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And what is gap financing?
Gap financing is the amount of dollars that isn't there for the Indianpreneur. We call our folks Indianpreneurs versus entrepreneurs. And so they're able to look at primary lender coming up with, let's say, 70% of the dollars. They might have 5 to 10% of their own money or equity to put into it, and they're short 10%. And that's where we'll look at helping to fill that gap.
And that's obviously a necessary action to take. What happens if they're not able to fill that gap? The businesses, if you weren't around.
Well, I mean, we're also we work with other nonprofit lenders and different folks to help come to bring it together. So, but most definitely, small businesses, not only in the Native community, but all other ethnic communities, generally need some sort of gap financing to help with that portion of it, to bring it to fruition. Even when I opened up my own business, some 12 years ago, I needed some help with gap financing.
And where did you get that help from?
I got it from a group called NDC, Neighborhood Development Group.
Sure.
In NDC.
And now you work with them.
Yeah, they're a partner with us, and we've worked with them, for closely for probably the last 7-8 years.
Interesting. And besides the local community that you work with to help your businesses, your clients, you're also working with the federal government.
Well, as a Native CDFI, we do. We just you're referencing the PTAC work that we just received an agreement with the Department of Defense, and so with more mature businesses and those who are ready to move to the next level, we offer services with those businesses to help them identify opportunities in contracting with the federal, state, local government, and also private industry. And along with that, we help them understand the processes and help them work through their certifications, different certifications.
Interesting.